Is a Tyreek Hill trade already on the horizon for the Miami Dolphins? Well, after that blowout loss to the Colts in week 1, there already is chatter by NFL insiders and analysts about a potential Hill trade. And it all was started by Pro Football Talk, aka Mike Florio, who put this out almost hours after the Dolphins' Week 1 game, saying that if this continues, receiver Tyreek Hill will be this year's Davante Adams. Although Hill is signed through 2026, he's due to make $36 million next year with a cap number of 51.89. It's highly unlikely he'll be back after 2025, so if the ship continues to sink, Hill becomes an asset that can be flipped into a draft pick. And listen, Mike Florio, I don't think is that spot on with most of his analysis, but I do have to agree with him here. We've talked about it a lot here on the channel over the past 3 or 4 months. If the Dolphins are the team that we saw in week 1, aka a bottom 5, bottom 10 team in football, under 500 record at the trade deadline, simply put, Tyreek Hill will be traded. And if he isn't traded, it's because of an outstanding circumstance, which there is one we will talk about here in a second, or it's incompetence from GM Chris Grier because he's not going to be back next season. And if you're not competing and contending this year, you should be absolutely looking to flip him to get at least some draft capital in return rather than just cutting him after the year and get nothing back other than some cap space. More coming up here in a second, but share this video. Want to spread the word of Dolphins today. A lot of content coming here at the channel, so subscribe, but also help us grow by sharing the video either to a friend, family member, or on social media. If you click and post to Twitter/X, well, and tag me at Nick_Roloff, I'll give you a retweet and like on that share. Adam Schefter actually chimed in on a potential Tyreek Hill trade during the Pat McAfee show on Monday afternoon, saying that he does not think the Dolphins are thinking about trading Tyreek Hill right now. If the season continues to go how it did on Sunday, you would have to think all options would be on the table, but the Dolphins still think they have a good team as of now. The next month will determine a lot. The next 4 games for the Miami Dolphins is this Sunday against the Patriots, following Thursday against the Bills, then Monday night game at home against the Jets, and then the week 5 is against the Panthers. I mean, those are golden opportunities for Miami to turn the season around. Like, if we're going to be honest here, in those next 4 games, Miami should be going 3-1. At least coming into the year, you would have projected the Dolphins to be better than the Patriots, then the Jets, better than the Panthers. If they go 3-1 then that stretch, well, then they're 3-2, and you're like, okay, maybe we can have a season still here. But if they struggle, well, then Tyreek Hill's likely gone. Hill did not have the biggest game against the Colts in week 1. He was targeted 6 times by Tua. He caught 4 of those targets for 40 yards, no touchdowns, 10 yards per catch. But he should have had a much bigger day. And this is why film tells the story rather than just looking at the box score. While watching the entire game back and looking at the All-22, which we broke down on Tuesday morning and labeling why Tua was so bad in terms of him being panicky, happy feet in the pocket, inaccurate. He missed Tyreek Hill on a massive play that would have been a 20-yard game. That was the one he overthrew on 3rd down, which was an interception by Cam Bynum. But there was also, I counted about 3 or 4 plays where Tyreek Hill beat his man, won his route, found a soft spot in a Colts zone, and either Tua just missed him or got sacked. Like, Tyreek Hill got open. There is no sign of decline in Tyreek Hill's play based off of his tape and film against the Colts this past Sunday. So if you're thinking that Tyreek's washed, at this point, after week 1, I would not say that he is right now. But be the GM. Should the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill? Type T for trade or type K for keep. Pin comment on today's show. Now, there is a situation that we have to monitor because this week it came out that Hill is being accused of domestic violence by his ex-wife, Keeta Vaccaro. Documents were obtained by TMZ, but she alleges 8 separate incidents in their divorce case across potential spitting, pushing down, twisting of arms. There is an article on the Miami Herald. Read the article by TMZ. There's a lot there. Not going to spend this entire video talking about this, But we do know there is history between Tyreek Hill and domestic violence, which means this is something that has to be taken seriously and can't be taken lightly. I am not going to speculate. We are going to wait for the facts to come out on the matter, but this is something to monitor because if the Dolphins were seriously interested in trading Tyreek Hill, it becomes very unlikely that another team would make a deal with the Dolphins involving Hill if this is still hanging around. We're going to move on from this now. We'll re-talk about it at the end of today's video. But there are a couple of teams that could be interested in a Tyreek Hill trade. In that same article that Mike Florio wrote about speculating a Hill trade, he also mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs and Pittsburgh Steelers as two teams that could be interested in a Tyreek Hill trade. We'll start with Kansas City because we absolutely know that if Hill is on the trade block, the Kansas City Chiefs will be one of those interested teams. Simply put, they need wide receiver help. Rashee Rice is suspended for the first 6 games, so 1 down, 5 to go. And Xavier Worthy is dealing with that shoulder injury. The Chiefs' offense in Week 1 against the Chargers lacked explosiveness. It lacked talent at the wide receiver position. Tyreek Hill would obviously change that very quickly, and there has been interest in the past from Tyreek and speculation that he would like to rejoin the Kansas City Chiefs roster. So I have a trade idea here between Miami and Kansas City. There is a trade idea out there that involves draft compensation as well as Jawan Taylor, their starting right tackle, who has struggled. Could make sense for Miami considering the injuries to James Daniels and Austin Jackson. But in this trade idea, I have the Dolphins acquiring a 3rd and 5th round pick from the Chiefs in this year's 2026 draft, as well as a mid-round draft pick at wide receiver, Jalen Royals, who was an interesting prospect coming out of the 2025 NFL draft. I think if Miami could get back multiple day 3 picks, that would be very nice. A day 2 and a day 3 pick with that 3rd rounder from Kansas City. I don't think you can expect a 1st round pick. I would be very surprised if they were able to get a 2nd rounder, but a 3rd round pick plus a day 3 pick could make a lot of sense for the Dolphins, as well as maybe recouping a player as well. More coming, but get started with Prize Picks today, the daily fantasy sports app and platform I'm on every day, and good decisions can get you paid on Prize Picks, where it pays to be right. Guess what, folks? It's so easy. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you could still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Turn your hot takes into cash all season on Prize Picks. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. I was not accurate on my picks in Week 1. We already have our picks in for Week 2. More than Terry McLaurin touchdowns. I think he gets in the end zone on Thursday night against the Packers, and I'll take that alongside the discounted stat projection for Travis Kelce, more than half a passing yard. Take advantage of that special on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. The other team that Mike Florio mentioned in a potential Hill trade was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is a very interesting team that I think is worth monitoring due to their constant targeting and need at wide receiver. And here's what Florio said on the Steelers. There's already chatter in the aftermath of Sunday's win over the Jets that the all-in Steelers could go even more all-in by making a move for Tyreek Hill. Yes, Pittsburgh already has receiver DK Metcalf, who's making $30 million per year on a 5-year deal, but the Steelers don't have a clear-cut number 2. Tyreek would be 1B, if not at times 1A, to DK Metcalf. And the reason why the Steelers are interesting, in my opinion, is because they are in an all-in win-now mode after dealing with Aaron Rodgers, which this is very likely his last year in the NFL. The Dolphins and Steelers have already executed a blockbuster trade this year obviously the Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith deal. So there's clearly a solid and good working relationship between their GM, Omar Khan, and the Dolphins' current GM, Chris Grier. Now, how long will he be the GM? I don't know. But the point remains there is a solid relationship there to where I think a deal could be ironed out. So what would a trade look like? Well, I think it's going to be something very similar to what trade idea I had involving the Kansas City Chiefs. Just no player coming back to Miami. A third-round pick and a fifth-round pick. And the Steelers could be very inclined to make a deal like this because they have a projected 12 picks in this upcoming 2026 NFL draft if you factor in the comp pick formula. The Steelers have 2 third-rounders, their own, and one via Dallas in that George Pickens trade. So I have the Dolphins getting the one from Dallas. That's the one they should want because I believe the Steelers will be better than the Cowboys this year, plus their 5th-round pick. So I think this is a very fair deal for both sides. The Steelers get a wide receiver that helps them get closer to competing for a title, and the Dolphins get 2 draft picks that help them potentially reload and overturn their roster in 2026. So which one is more likely? If Tyreek Hill does get traded, which team do you think it would be to, if not someone else? The Chiefs, type KC. If you think it would be the Steelers, type PIT. The truth, at least in my opinion, when it comes to a Tyreek Hill trade, is that no deal is going to happen with the alleged domestic violence case around. And I do want to make this clear as well when it comes to the domestic violence. Even though, as of now, Tyreek Hill is not being looked into it in terms of a criminal investigation, the NFL does not need that in order to investigate it in their own merit, and they could perform their own investigation, come to a conclusion, and based off their player conduct policy, they could suspend Tyreek Hill, and it could be a lengthy amount, as I mentioned earlier, with his past. So just because there isn't a criminal investigation right now, the NFL could still suspend Tyreek Hill. But getting back to at least trade discussions, I think it's important to note here that the NFL trade deadline this year is on November 4th, which means the Dolphins will get 8 full games in before that trade deadline. I think the Dolphins, if they are 3-5 or worse, I would even say 4-4, should really think about selling because their schedule is very easy in the first 8 weeks of the year and compared it to the last 9 games of the season. So if they are 500 or below, it tells me this team is not contending for a playoff spot or a playoff type of team. And this is why I'm ending the show with this. Rolly's final word. This game in NFL Week 2 is absolutely massive at home against the Patriots. If you lose to New England in Week 2, you are 0-2 with bad losses against the Colts and the Patriots. And then you have to go on a short week to Buffalo to play the Bills, which means you are starting the year 0-3, which also means you are selling all of your veterans at the trade deadline, and Mike McDaniel, Chris Grier are not long for their current positions. The Dolphins need to come out with their hair on fire this Sunday and get a win. We know the Patriots will under Mike Vrabel. How will Mike McDaniel have these Dolphins responding? I'm not sure, but they absolutely need to get a win this Sunday to save their own jobs and save the season. That'll do it for this show. Hit that sub button if you want more Dolphins content. 2 videos a day, 3 live shows a week, day after game, Thursdays and game days. Subscribe and join the Dolphins Today family.